Starfield's release date has been announced and has the community stirring. It's been a long while since we received a proper Bethesda single-player experience. Like their other titles, Starfield will be a game filled with secrets and mystery, with Todd himself suggesting you'll be at the center of it all. In particular, one major plot point has been hinted at since the first teaser trailer, which explains what Starfield's about and what you'll be doing. Well, in this video I'll break down exactly what you may have missed, what these mysterious rings are, how they're involved in the story, how shard collecting comes into it, and what the gameplay golden path will have you doing, along with my evidence and reasoning. Before we start, be sure to let me know down below what you think. I'll be giving away copies of Starfield every month leading up to release to those who subscribe, like, and comment on my Starfield videos, so be sure not to miss out. I know it's said to death, but subscribing really helps me out, and it's only one click. In exchange, I'll be sure to bring you the best Starfield information on YouTube. Alright, first off, look at these drawings made by a member of Constellation. It shows a structure of alien design and make, which we have limited understanding of, but have seen active during different trailers and teasers. From a bird's eye view, it's a circular design with various patterns leading to the center. At the center is a set of 3 rotating rings that spring to life when activated. Constellation notes that they've been unable to determine what happens in the center. And that's where you come in. You are the center of it all, no doubt tasked and organically involved in uncovering the mysteries of this structure. During the teaser trailer, the announcer says,
"What you've found, it's the key to unlocking everything."
So we know you've found something important and that it unlocks something. Take note of the patterns here, especially this one. These patterns suggest separate meanings according to the Constellation notes. We can see them on the rings at the center of the structure as they rotate around. So why are they of importance? Well, let's move on to the second drawing. Here we see a shard containing the pattern you took note of before. These shards are mysterious until you look at the top and bottom right and see these shards fit together to form the rings, noted by the labeling of the left and right and top shards, as well as the diagram of the shards fitting together. It makes sense why they all have that curve at the same degree. Here we see the player character talking to Constellation members who are observing some shards floating around each other. Look closely. Does something seem familiar? Yes, they're floating around each other in the same triple ring pattern as the rings are when completed. I say completed because if it isn't obvious by now, you'll need to find shards to repair and reactivate the rings. It's all coming together now, pun intended. Let me show you further evidence of this theory. Here we see the player character approaching a hollowed out rock. It looks to be a meteorite, yet it's unclear. However, if we look inside, what do we see when we pause the frame? Oh yes, a glowing shard, a piece of the ring that you reach out and collect. Is this the key to unlocking everything that the announcer mentioned before? You'll notice that these shards also tend to cause objects around them to float and move in orbit, which suggests these shards play with gravity in some mysterious way. More on that later. After the player touches the shard, it shows a brief glimpse of something, a flash that suggests traveling a vast distance or getting a vision of some kind. Either way, it may just be a cutscene, so we can't be sure touching caused anything to happen. What we can be sure of though is that we see the same kind of flash when the player character enters the ring. But let's also put a pin in that and rewind back to the structures themselves. These structures can be seen in multiple areas. The first shown was through a valley in a spire. We see rocks and debris floating around it, suggesting perhaps that the rings are complete and the structure is active. As we see the player character walking in and it indeed being active. The next structure we see is on a moon in this castle-like building. It too has rock and debris floating around it. Traveling through the door, we see the rings start spinning and the player character floating, about to enter or receiving a vision, until we see a zoom effect in an area of the universe, then another zoom effect out. This effect is similar to the hint we got in the previous trailer when the player touches the shard. So let's take stock of what we know so far. There are structures, at minimum 2, littered throughout the galaxy. These structures have rings at their center that rise from the floor, start spinning, and do something when you either enter them or look into them. We know that the player character found something important to the plot which can unlock mysteries. We know we'll be finding pieces of rings around the galaxy, and on them are special symbols, the same symbols that glow as the rings boot up and start spinning around. It all seems connected when you lay it out like that. Next, we see one of our constellation star stations in orbit around a planet. These are clearly observation platforms as shown by their inner workings. Its planet-facing side looks like an eye and seems to be what they call it. As the announcer says, the eye's showing signs over another one of those big anomalies. Maybe you'll catch a smile and uncover the source of it all. What does that mean? Firstly, is this big anomaly the structure we've been discussing? Though it could also be an event like a gravity fluctuation that we've also been seeing. He also mentions the word another, meaning that there's been at least one anomaly prior to this point. Maybe you'll catch a smile might suggest maybe you'll get lucky and uncover the source of the mystery. So signs are happening over anomalies seemingly randomly, and you'll no doubt be investigating. It's entirely possible that the structure we've been discussing starts activating with rocks and debris floating around, and you go inside to discover what to do or where to go next. However, I think it's more likely these anomalies are just that, anomalies for you to check out. When you get to them, no doubt there'll be trouble around it, but the center will be a shard for you to collect. When you collect said shard, you can then use them to repair or fix the rings in one of the structures in that same star system it was collected. No doubt each shard relates to a specific structure, hence the symbols. You most likely need to match the symbols on the ground to the rings, and when the rings are complete, they'll start spinning and you can use those rings to discover the next part of the breadcrumb, which will be a star system that has the next structure and shard pieces you'll need to repair it. It could shoot you through space like a Mass Effect mass relay, or teleport you, or even just show you the way. I've done a lot of thinking on the topic, and I think it's more likely you'll find out the coordinates. The reason being is the game has a very heavy ship focus, your fuel capacity determining how far you can travel and so forth. If you shoot off to parts unknown, you wouldn't be taking your ship with you, and you'll be more or less stranded. We've also seen that the rings do not take your ship with you, and they're shown only to be 2.5 player characters tall. Also, we see the player floating still, looking into the rings as we catch the vision of a part of space, not the player slowly drifting into them. So if we follow the clues to its logical conclusion, it seems very clear. The gameplay loop for the main storyline will have you entering a star system, discovering the structure, investigating the anomalies that the eye has discovered, finding the shards, fixing the rings, finding the next star system, and a little bit more about the mysteries of the universe in the process. You'll probably need to upgrade your ship's fuel capacity in order to reach the next section of the Golden Path. All the while doing side missions for different factions, making bases, building relationships with companions, buying and modding ships, and more. Todd has mentioned on multiple occasions that the game is about discovery, and the ultimate question of why we're here, and that narrative fits perfectly with what we've just discussed. Someone has left us a breadcrumb to follow, so let's follow it together. So I can be found on Twitter and my Discord channel, where you can discuss Starfield and games with me directly. I always try my best to reply to every comment. Be sure to sub if you're interested in Starfield and getting yourself a free copy, as I'll be covering this game extensively. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, ciao friends.